Excellent.
Hello, David. How are you?
Good morning, and I'm doing great. I'm doing wonderful this morning. We got a bunch of rain, unexpected actually, over the last couple of weeks, including I got soaking wet yesterday running back to the office. And this isn't the rainy season, but me and my alchemical team have been working on weather working almost every single day. And we are getting an unprecedented amount of rain for the middle of a super drought. So I'm feeling good. Right now, the sun is beginning to pop out from the clouds. So
there you go. So, friends, here I've done my previous interview as just someone new. But here comes my teacher, David.
yes,
Quickly, yes, and I'm so fortunate to get trained, and I can vouch for it, friends, that my life before alchemical hypnosis and after alchemical hypnosis is different. Yet, I am going to now, David, ask every question about protocol and all that things. And thank you once again for accepting this interview. So first, please tell me, how is this alchemical hypnosis different from clinical hypnosis or any other hypnosis form?
that's a very good question. And we can start by dismissing a popular mythology of the subject, which is that alchemy is somehow David Quigley's invention, or perhaps worse, his brand name or his own little creation. I want to make that absolutely clear that alchemy is an ancient spiritual science that is utterly different than what we understand today as hypnosis. Although it is also true that the alchemical process, which for you, of course, and for many thousands of others over the years have been a life-changing experience, a watershed event in their lives. Almost everyone I talk to says, well, before the training, and then after the training, before my alchemical transformation, and then after. But the key to understand about this is that this is not because you have been brainwashed by Swami Quiglananda and his starry-eyed followers. Let me make very clear that alchemy is not a cult based upon worshiping me. In fact, if you recall all the times when I told you to get down on your knees and worship the divine Quigley? That's right, because it doesn't happen in my training. Okay. And I do not pretend to be an enlightened master. I am a skilled teacher and researcher and scientist in the field of spirituality, a process of transformation, learning, and healing that began for me at Duke University, which has one of the top comparative religion departments in the country, if not the world, and one of the largest spiritualist libraries in the world. So I had the opportunity at Duke as a major in comparative religion to study a broad range of spiritual technologies and traditions, including Hinduism, Buddhism, New Testament Christianity, which I was a researcher into what's called historical Christianity. And I managed to also take a lot of psychedelics during that time and do a lot of meditation, and wound up in these powerful states, meeting the very beings and speaking to them. My favorite among them being Carl Jung, the first modern alchemist. And he came to me in a powerful vision. Actually, it was like watching a movie called Matters of the Heart. And he emerged from the screen and said, you are to bring alchemy back to the world. Now, what he actually said in the movie was alchemy was the therapy of the 21st century. And he said that because he was suggesting that the process that he called active imagination, where we go on journeys into the inner world, the shamanic journey is a good alternate nickname for this. And in these journeys into the inner world, we discover archetypes, divine beings, in particular, the divine inner father, the inner mother, the inner mate, the higher self. These beings are portrayed as elements of the alchemist's experimental processes, utilizing altered states of consciousness, states which today we would call hypnosis. But Freud and Jung would, or at least Jung would have called it active imagination, you see. So when Carl Jung developed this, when he started researching the field of alchemy, he discovered that alchemy was about several things. First, it was about restoring physical health and vitality. They were very clear about this. The alchemist is not sickly. The alchemist is not leaving the earth plane. The alchemist is developing their health and vitality and strength on a physical and spiritual level. The alchemist that is described in the ancient writings as meeting a divine inner mother and inner father, an inner mate, making love to their inner mate, finding an inner child. Does this sound familiar to you, Nizam? Yeah, this is all what they did. This isn't David Quigley's invention. Although I suppose if you say that if David Quigley invented fathers and mothers, then maybe this is my invention.
No.
I don't think so. I don't think I'm quite that brilliant.
Yes.
So in the alchemical process, the idea is we restore our physical and emotional and spiritual vitality, not by connecting with some divine guru, David Quiglananda, or by being washed in the blood of some long dead martyr. No, those are not the way we do things. In alchemy, what we do is we help clients to connect with their own divine inner resources, their own inner father, their inner mother, their inner mate, their higher self, their past life resources. And we integrate those. Awesome. Alchemy is therefore utterly different than any other kind of therapy existing today. Well, you might say, well, and by the way, there's an article on my website. I hope you'll have a chance to read it, called Placing Alchemy in the Spectrum of Counseling and Healing Professions. I think it might be worthwhile to review that with all of us this morning. Then I'll let you ask whatever protocol questions you have.
Sure. So,
okay. Yes.
Yeah. See, inner child work is nothing new. There are so many variations. So how is child rescue mission protocol different from other inner child therapists?
Good question. So here we go. Well, first of all, the ancient alchemists spoke about the inner child. They call it a homunculus. It was a small embryo that lived in the belly of the alchemist. And so we know that such modern day researchers whose work I recommend, like John Bradshaw, Charles Whitworth, those who have developed the inner child concept and the inner child therapy, are themselves part of the alchemical revolution. They just didn't know it because they hadn't seen it in the alchemical textbooks yet. But John Bradshaw, I guess he should have been reading those alchemical texts a little more closely, because John Bradshaw talks about the adult self as the loving champion and supporter of the inner child in a number of his books, especially my favorite, The Homecoming. Homecoming is the best book of his, but On the Family is another good one that describes this. The idea of rescuing the inner child, however, in the John Bradshaw tradition, involves only the adult self.
Okay.
Your adult self is, well, that kind of sucks for me, because my adult self didn't know what to do with his inner child. My adult self, like so many of my clients, needed help. And of course, in the inner world, we connect with a loving divine inner father and divine inner mother. And it's all, by the way, spoken about by my friend Jesus in the book, The Gospel of Thomas, if you want to read it. But God comes to us in this form, the loving father, the loving mother in the inner world, and they help us to love the inner child. And of course, that also includes an inner mate. After all, for me, I'm in Libra, so I'm totally in love with love. And so having a loving inner mate in my life to assist me in caring for my inner child is extremely important. All of these processed together form the technology, the training you've just completed, which I believe is the emotional clearing technology. It's different, very different, because we use new inner parents to assist in the process. We also use a number of alchemical techniques, which many of the modern psychotherapists simply don't know, but I am a researched and expert in that area. For example, when receiving from my inner mother the gift of a pilot light of love, she said, no matter how dark it becomes, no matter how cold you are, this pilot light of love will always be there to remind you that I love you. And so we put that pilot light right there in my belly button. This is many, many years ago. And it illuminated my life in such a way that I finally, for the first time, felt like I didn't have to kill myself. I know we're talking about some pretty miserable pain back in those days, and yet she was the beginning of my healing.
Wow.
And that is different than ordinary work with the inner child, because it is a divine and mystical journey. However, it's not a journey into some kind of religious dogma. You see, an alchemist is a Hypnotherapist, yes, but we're not a priest or a priestess. Well, we are in a way, of course. I guess I can certainly call myself a priest of the new age, but I am certainly not a representative of any particular religious order. The Alchemical Institute, which has offices all over the world, is not a religion, which is probably why you don't have a whole lot of evangelists flying around in private airplanes promoting how you could be born in the blood of David Quigley. Thank God we don't have that around here. But it means we're a small organization. Most people would rather have a cult. Most people would rather sell their soul to the devil or whoever else they want. However, for those who are actually ready to evolve in their own spiritual path, to discover their own answer, our alchemical trainings are the place to go. We have alchemy is therefore not a religion, nor is it a psychotherapy, because I'm not interested in having the client dependent on my wisdom. I want them to find the wisdom within. And that's my job, is to help them get it. Now, yes, we use a lot of other techniques from a lot of other schools of therapy, though, besides just inner child work. My work is solidly based in neurolinguistic programming, Ericksonian hypnosis, clinical hypnosis, Gestalt therapy, parts therapy, past life regression therapy. Alchemy, as you are discovering, Nizam, is a very powerful system of therapy. And it might be accurate to say that David Quigley is the one that in this century has put it all together. And yes, Nizam, you will find bits and pieces of the alchemical work all over the place, won't you? I mean, in every school, even in Dick Suppin, for example, developed the technology of working with overt acts and clearing them from our past lives. Unfortunately, he wasn't a mathematician like I was, so he didn't write down the protocols of how to do it. But that's what you are going to be learning this coming Saturday in class, is how to clear and heal the karmic deeds from our past. This is yet another of the technologies in alchemy that are extremely powerful. You see, the ancient alchemists were well aware of the existence of past lives. They didn't know how to teach that without getting themselves burned at the stake. But in our work today, we discovered that much of the suffering the clients endure is because of mistakes they made, misdeeds in their past, and that it often in past lives. And the task of this lifetime for all of us is to make amends. We're all on some kind of divine cosmic 12-step program of recovery from ego existence. And part of that means examining what we've done in the past. I know, for example, I was a terrible spiritual teacher back in ancient Egypt. Oh yeah, I was responsible for hundreds of deaths. I was running a religious cult, let's be blunt. And it was a long and complicated story, and I could give you all the justifications as to why it's important to kill all those people. However, in my present life, I'm busy making amends by teaching honestly and empowering people to discover their own answers rather than finding a cult. So that's my job. All of us have our unique challenge, our unique, I would use the word jihad, but it's so misunderstood in the West. But the word jihad, as you understand, because you have a Muslim background, means the same, ironically, as what the Christian word crusade means.
Okay.
It doesn't mean violent battle or warfare anymore, so much as it means, except in certain circles. But what it means is that we have our personal struggle, our personal karmic deeds we need to do for the world, the amends we need to make. And this isn't just personal struggle for me to control my own negativity, but rather it is a gift, a purpose, a destiny unique to me, which is one I am here to give to the world. This is what's called the preconception contract in alchemy. Or another, we could call it your life contract, what you are here to do. And alchemy is unique among other kinds of therapy because our focus is going to be on finding out why you are here at a divine level, not just giving you a loving father and mother, that's nice, happily rescuing your inner child, healing your emotional pain, helping you find loving relationships and family in the outer world as well. Yes, we do that too. After all, we are here on the earth plane, and we are humans. But at the same time, we also, in the work of alchemy, are looking to complete our karmic destiny. completing our rescuing the world from our own past. Now, I know this really well because I have been quite aware that over the last 3,000 years, I've been mostly a screw up, as you probably remember from my lecture. I've been mostly a karmic screw up. I'm not saying, oh, I was the Zen master for 100 years, and then I was in the Tibetan monasteries and blah, blah, blah. No. Drunken pig farmer, nasty seducer of women in France in 1500s, violent and dangerous warrior. I've done all the above. And I know that my destiny in this lifetime is to make amends for all that. You see, so some of you may look at me and say, this guy's humble. I'd say, well, I'm having to learn humility. It doesn't come natural for me. So anyway, I'll turn it back over to you, Nizam. Any other questions you have about alchemy?
Yes, about womb transplant also. Again, rebirthing process is a lot of people do it, but trust me, David, that blew out my mind. Like, wow, this is different. So could you please tell about womb transplantation protocol we use?
The womb transplant is a very important and valuable element of the emotional clearing process, healing the wounds of childhood. But the key to understanding the womb transplant, or what I call the rebirthing process, is it isn't just about going through the birth process and, like a rebirthing. What Leonard Orr, maybe 40 years ago, developed this thing where you breathe and rebirth. There's no particularly good structure to that. And it's not that effective, quite frankly. So what we're looking for right now, pardon me, I'm going to cough this point. What we're looking for right now is finding, first of all, a new inner mother, the kind of mother, of course, your birth mother might be a perfectly good mother for you, but in many cases, it's not. Often what's needed is not merely a womb transplant, but a mother transplant. So we first of all determine, and there's a long list of signs and symptoms here that can indicate to us that the birth trauma and the lack of bonding to a loving mother was a problem and continues to be a problem for the client. You may remember there's a long list, most of which are quite evident in most of us in America today. Let me be blunt. I mean, things like addictive cravings, feeling of not being loved or wanted, feeling rejection and resentment at rejection. All of these, and there's a long list, as you remember, behavioral and belief systems that are associated with a failure to bond with a loving mother at the time of your birth. And so what most rebirthing processes do, they just have you breathe and lie there, or they have you imagine something. And it's not very active, although, of course, rebirthing can be very active. I remember I went through it a couple of times, and I was busy panting and breathing and panting. And the problem was I never got a resolution from it. I never felt as though I bonded to anyone in particular. And it was annoying. And of course, I felt a deep emotional connection to my female therapist when she pulled me out of trance. That didn't help me at all, because she made it very clear, I don't want to be your lover. I didn't want that either. But I was a newborn baby saying, where's my mommy? You know what I mean? And she was saying, no, I'm not it. That's not a good idea, actually, because it left me feeling very devastated and not trusting of rebirthing or of therapy. So when I did get the experience of a new inner mother in my life, who walked me through, who birthed me out of her birth canal in a very active process in which I was not just lying there breathing, I was given very specific instructions, Nizam, and you know what they are.
Yeah.
So my whole body was going through a tremendous ecstatic kind of state. Now, of course, I wasn't crying. You'll notice that when you're going through the rebirth, you're not crying. You're not doing the usual emotional release. What you're doing is you're moving through the birth canal. And there's a lot of exciting emotion about there. And of course, I was very excited to come out in the arms of, for the first time, a loving mother who was wanted to care for me and was capable of caring for me. And I want to be honest with you, as you may remember, my physical mother was a lovely woman who wanted very much to be a mother, but the circumstance I was born in, we were in a war zone. There were bombs going on all around us. My parents were fleeing from China, so there was no way that I was going to get my mother's full attention. And in fact, we starved. So giving the client a new experience of birth, a new experience of a mother, isn't necessarily because mommy was bad or evil. or even wrong. It just means that, well, I didn't get what I needed from that experience. And oftentimes as you know, the experience of going through this birth at the end left me feeling so ecstatic. My whole body was tingling. Mommy was counting my fingers and toes. I mean, here I was, of course, a 40-year-old man, but counting my fingers and toes, and it feels so good. I feel so wiggly and happy and joyous, lying in her arms. And it was the final nail in the coffin of my long battle with molds and allergies and asthma in particular. And that is, as you may remember, one of the important things that this rebirthing process solves is lung condition. And of course, it was perfect because at the time, I was in Hawaii and was suffering a severe asthmatic reaction to the molds in this little jungle basement room in Hawaii I was sleeping in. And so when my inner mother gave birth to me, it was in the jungles. And now the smell of mold is very intoxicating and delicious to me, and I love it. Anytime I can get near mold and smell it, because it's the smell of my mother's body, and I am her baby. So there goes the allergies, Nizam. Exactly. So anyway, back to you.
Yes. And so many hypnotherapy trainings and sessions are around cognitive work, or some work at hypnosis level. But there is somatic healing, lot of importance given in the somatic work as well in the alchemy. Why is that so, David?
Why is the focus on somatic healing?
Yes, somatic healing, importance.
Somatic healing is important because we're in bodies, okay?
Yes. Yes.
And our bodies have a certain pattern of health and vitality or of illness, a pattern that is established in the auric field around the body. Well, Anton Mesmer would have called this animal magnetism. I think the words auric field, or the chi energy of the body, is the Oriental term. An energy that travels in meridians, that is in channels throughout the body, and also exits and enters the body through certain exit points. There are sort of ley lines and acupuncture points on the human body that we're going to be focusing on with somatic healing, because we're in a body. Yes. I mean, I probably wouldn't do quite so much with somatic healing if we were not in the bodies, if we just had astral bodies. But since we have physical bodies, I need to have that help personally, because I have a very weak body. I was not born with a strong body. I have I don't want to go into a long list, but asthma, chronic allergies, arthritis. I was crippled with it in my 20s. So you might say that practically somatic healing became a requirement for me. Otherwise, I would be dead a long time ago. I don't have much patience being in a wheelchair, for that matter.
Yeah.
So somatic healing, however, was also an important element of strengthening our body and our auric field.
Wow.
That is described in the alchemical writings as the elixir of immortality. It doesn't mean, by the way, that they're going to be living forever, as in no alchemist would ever want to live forever on this earth plane. But it does mean we can keep vitality and health for many, many years. The great alchemical saints and heroes all describe themselves as having very healthy, active lives to a late age. Now, I'm still a spring chicken, of course, at 71, but I still love my mountaineering and rock climbing and martial arts and all that stuff. You know what I mean? I just enjoy being active. And I want my alchemist to be active and healthy.
So true. Because, just cognitive work and emotional work is incomplete if we ignore the body. And thank you for bringing the somatic healing into this work. Amazing. Yeah.
Well, it's really effective because it's miraculous. It's miraculous what happens. I mean, I was just hiking out there in the during the COVID epidemic. I did a lot of hiking, of course, get away from other people. And I remember one time I was taking an awkward leap on a trail, because I'm wild and crazy. I'll be frank. I was taking an awkward leap on a trail. I leaped about 5 feet and wound up hitting the wrong way. I won't say it. My shoe didn't have enough traction to hold me up, so I fell over, broke my foot, broke my toe right there in the what's called the large metatarsal bone right here. I was in agony of pain. It's turning black and blue and swelling. Got to take the shoe off. Broken foot. And a hiker comes walking past, says, well, can I get you? Can I call the cops? Well, I mean, the emergency room, the doctors, what I mean, cops, the doctors. And I said, no, I'll be okay. Because my inner healer took this hand and first of all, realigned the bone, lifted it up like this, pull it out like this, then squeezed it back in, coating it with a white fluid. You know this. Oh, you haven't done the class yet. This white glue that she used to reset the bone. There's rumors of this in the old Taoist works of China, what they call bone setters. They know how to do this. And my inner healer is a bone setter. They just put the bone back in, shoved it up. Then she had to get rid of all the blackness and the swelling and all, the complications. That took some time. And then she had it all thing glued together. Then she said, okay, now it's going to have to take a minute to set. I always hate that part. That's my least favorite part, is sitting around going, is it going to work? Am I going to be able to walk? You know what I mean? I mean, it's the kind of break, of course, it'll take a month or two to heal. But sure enough, within about 15 minutes, she said, okay, David, now try it out. That whole the whole day, I was able to, I'll be honest with you, I didn't continue my hike. But I was able to walk I think it was about a half-hour walk with only very mild limp and almost no pain to the car. Admittedly, it took about a month before I could get back to my more rigorous dance routines. I'll be frank. It took about a month so I knew that a break had happened because I'd wake up in the morning, step on, whoops, there's something still there. However, every night she would just continue to do a little work on it as needed. And so, like I say, I was quite ambulatory and pain-free within 30 minutes. But it took me a month before I could get back to my dance routine, only because I could feel something there whenever I do my climbing or hiking or running. So that's why not? If we have the ability to do this, you know what I mean? Basically, the superhero, one of my most admired, is a character called Wolverine. And he's famous because he's a wild creature of the woods, which is definitely me. And this is by the way, it's my favorite haunts right back here behind us here. That's the Annandale Park, something like 10,000 acres of wilderness behind me. And it's right across from my office. So when I'm always doing crazy stuff, breaking things, straining things, pulling things, because I'm a wild climber and a wild dancer. And I just know it's going to get fixed. And that's the beauty of somatic healing. Amazing. But there's something else going on here that I need to mention, Nizam. Boy, there's something else, Nizam, and that is that if we are going to heal our world, we'd better learn how to do it better. If we're going to heal the people on our planet and our planet itself, we have to develop a better technology than the extremely expensive and complicated and energy intensive thing called modern medicine, which, by the way, is very good medicine, in my opinion, in many ways. But it is dominated by profit motive. It is dominated by pharmaceutical industries. It is dominated by an atheistic and materialist perspective toward disease and toward healing. And somatic healing is how we're going to reintroduce spirit to the field of medicine. Now, my work in somatic healing, you may not know this, is very popular in Japan, where a couple of doctors got a hold of it about 20 years ago. And now we certify somatic healers all over Japan, all over Japan. There are in almost every city in Japan, in clinics and hospitals. This kind of work is being done because in Japan, it's not the profit motive that motivates doctors and hospitals. It is caring for people. Now, by the way, in America, there are plenty of doctors that care about people. What we don't have is a medical system that cares about people. It only cares about profits. That's because America is the capital of capitalism. So therefore, the medical industry in America is doomed because it's only about making money. My work is, and the reason it's so popular in Japan, because in Japanese culture, they actually like to heal people rather than just shoot them. They like to heal people. Things are different there than they were back in World War II, by the way. And so what we're learning in Japan is that this is extremely powerful work. So one thing that makes somatic healing unique is that in somatic healing, the inner healer, your own unique personal connection to healing, comes to you and actually enters your body, as I've just described with my broken foot. They actually enter your body and heal it. Wow. And you'll be experiencing that when you get to the somatic healing class, which will be coming up soon in your training. That's the beginning of part 2 of your training.
Wow. And such a beautiful, that's the reason, David, when it comes to alchemical hypnosis practitioner, they are able to do the spiritual work, they are able to do the clinical hypnosis work, they are able to do the somatic healing. It's beautiful. That's the reason I wanted to discuss all about this protocol. And there is one more you have introduced called conference room technology. So how is this different from parts therapy, David? Because parts therapy, there is a part of me wants to wake up, a part of me doesn't want to wake up. We have NLP, we have so many variations. So what is conference room technology speciality?
Yes. Well, first of all, conference room is a type of parts therapy. Okay. Or another way we could call it one conference room is one system, my system of subpersonality work or parts therapy. There are many, many different systems of parts therapy, some very good ones out there. Alchemy, in that sense, you might say Nizam, alchemy is not unique.
Yes.
Because many other systems of therapy have a specific addressing of the inner judge, the inner rebel, the inner victim, you see the inner ego. Parts therapy actually in some ways began with Sigmund Freud, but his description of the ego, the superego, and the id. What Sigmund Freud didn't realize when he opened that particular can of worms was how many creatures there were in there. But his model of ego, superego, and id is still a very important one in my work with conference room. My work with conference room is founded not just upon superficial hypnotic training, but upon a very extensive background in psychotherapy, comparative religion. And so it's just a very sophisticated system of parts therapy. That's what conference room is. And it's about building and strengthening your will, who you are going to become in the world. Wow. That means talking to the various voices with different resources and different ideas, and some with resistance, a judge, a rebel, a Mr. Together, a victim. All of these voices come together in conference room. But one thing that makes conference room a little different than parts therapy in general is that in conference room, we revere the loving father in the inner world, the loving mother, the inner mate, and the other, and the higher self, of course, the higher self guide. We not only encourage them to appear, but frankly, we require their presence. If you're going to be doing, for example, a relationship conference room session to go over all the different voices of you that have an opinion about a particular love relationship, for example, if you're thinking about getting married or not sure about it, there may be different voices. But alchemy is the one system in which we're going to find out from your inner mate, your guide to love relationships. Inner mate, what is your perspective about this choice? You see, if the guy's looking at a career choice, a shift in their career path. In alchemy, we would contact the future self who knows what your destiny is and is fulfilling that and is prosperous with that. We would call in that future self. So in alchemy, we make a point not only to call in the ego voices, the super ego voices, the id voices, but we call in the higher self voices, the guides. We include those. And that, of course, is something Sigmund Freud would not have tolerated.
Yes,
Sigmund Freud, who developed the first conference room approach, did not believe in the spiritual world, but of course, he's had plenty of time to think about that in the last 50 years since his death. So anyway.
Right. And Alchemical Hypnosis Institute also offers this advanced psychic development course. So
yes.
Please tell about it, David.
Well, I've been a psychic for many, many years. I would say my third eye was open through some fasting and healing experiences with my guides way back. I can tell you it was the year, it's 1977. I remember that's when all of a sudden the lights came on. And I didn't really have any idea what this meant or what these lights and colors meant until I studied the chakra system. And I studied psychic development and psychic abilities development, psychic training with Louis Bostwick, the founder of the Berkeley Psychic Institute, and following that up with a number of other studies with some of his graduates. So I learned how to teach First of all, I learned what all these weird colors were and what this thing was and why that black spot could represent this or that illness. And then after developing my own skills, I began teaching workshops, and those workshops now have been divided up into five, have been for many, many years, divided into five separate components that together form my advanced psychic development program.
Could you please tell what are those 5 classes that are covered?
Yeah, first is the chakra system. What is the human chakra system like? And of course, you know that coming from India. It was developed by tantric meditation back in the 7th century AD. Tantra, which you'd be often thinking of something to do with sex, which it does. But it's mainly about energy. It's about the energy of the body and the spiritual anatomy of the human body. The 7 chakra system is described in my website in a free web book called The Tree of Life. It's a free book you can read and study and learn all about the chakra system, how it works and why it's important. And you will learn not only to understand your own chakra system, but also how to read that chakra system on others. That sounds pretty esoteric, but in fact, it's a fundamental basis for all energy work and all psychic development. And Louis Bostwick was smart in making that the foundation of his psychic development program. And of course, mine as well. Now, the second thing, so the first thing is we're going to learn the chakra system and how to read the chakras, how to look at the colors, how to detect who a person is by reading their auric field. In the second of these 2 classes, called medical intuition, we will learn what illness, how to detect illnesses in the body. That was one of my specialties as a psychic and as an alchemist, reading illnesses in the body. Well, let's see, and not only discovering where they are, but what they're about and what their lesson is. Every illness has 4 dimensions. And this, by the way, it comes right out of the Tree of Life, out of the esoteric teachings of the Kabbalah. Every illness has 4 dimensions. The first is a physical dimension, the manifestation, how it's hurting, what's wrong with your heart, physically. Secondly, there's an emotional element. What are the feelings there? And what's going on with your emotional life, your relationship world, your self-confidence, your belief in yourself. And finally, your mental world. What do you believe about yourself in the world? What's the mental constructs? What's the core beliefs that you have constructed around the world that are causing the illness? And finally, what is the spiritual purpose that illness has for your life? How is it a gateway to your destiny? I know for me, the lesson was easy. From rheumatoid arthritis, being crippled with arthritis and thus unable to climb mountains, unable to be an outdoorsman. The spiritual lesson I had to learn was you're not supposed to be a house painter. You are supposed to be a teacher of spirituality. That was why I was crippled with arthritis, to stop me from pursuing a pretty much materialistic existence. All of us will have similar call, a similar destiny awaiting us within the illness we suffer. You might want to read the book. I think it's available on Amazon. Is Cancer as a Turning Point. Okay. This book and this will be recommending that in the somatic healing class. Cancer as a Turning Point. This book is about how a psychotherapist working in a hospital setting with terminally ill cancer patients found out that when they could discover the purpose of their illness, that the illness just went away. Their cancer was just easily conquered by medical treatment in some cases, or no medical treatment in some cases. It just went away because they knew what its purpose was. Cancer as a turning point could easily be called cancer as the signpost to your real destiny. That's what we'll be learning in the somatic healing class. And in the psychic development class, we'll be learning how to discover these in other people. And in somatic healing, we'll be discovering it for ourselves. The 4 dimensions of illness we'll be exploring. Now, that's the second. Now, there's a third class, which is tarot. And I love the tarot. I've developed my own tarot deck. I used to be a tarot reader. Some of you may remember the old days when I was a tarot reader. And that was the days when I would hobble into the room on crutches and read tarot cards because that was, I knew, part of my future. And soon I just threw away the crutches but I haven't thrown away the tarot cards. And so you will learn. And the good news about this is you don't need to read a book. You don't need to know about tarot. I give you everything you know of how to use the tarot in a type of reading that is deeply alchemical. Enter into the card. I say to my readee, the client, enter into the card. Speak to the being within the card. What is their message for you? Oh, that brings up emotion. Yes. When have you felt this way before? And what message does this being within the tarot card have for you? So it's actually a journey into the tarot deck. And yes, it is totally unique. No other tarot teacher or reader does it this way. But I have been a tarot reader now, developing my own deck, and been a tarot reader now for 50 years. So I would say that you will have a lot of fun learning how to read the tarot as a.
Looking forward for that.
What's that?
I'm looking forward for that.
Oh, you're looking for it. Yes, that's all I heard. Yeah, good. Yet another class is going to be one on dream work, which is again the same basic approach. Here's the dream. Now we're going to enter the dream, talk to the dream beings, let the dream beings take us on a journey down to where the pain is, down to what needs to be resolved, forward to the future, see it solved. Alchemical dream work is an extremely dynamic form of dream work based upon Gestalt dream work and based upon Carl Jung and the teachings of the archetypes. And it is the same in many ways as the alchemical tarot. Alchemical tarot, alchemical dream work are both, if you have any inclination to want to work with symbols or to be a Jungian, these two classes will blow your mind and will give you tools you can use the rest of your life as a Jungian counselor, as a symbolic counselor, tarot and dream work. By the way, each of these is only a 4-hour class. I wish they could be, I could do several days on each one, but each is a 4-hour class, so they're inexpensive and easy to get started. Now, the final section in the psychic development program is a class on death and dying.
That's an important topic.
I would think so. You'd think so, wouldn't you? I mean, after all, although actually what I like to say to people is probably most Americans will never need that class. I mean, only those people who actually are going to die someday or know someone who will. And America is so full of denial right now, never mind. But you see, as long as you want to pretend that, oh, well, I'm going to die because I'm washed in the blood of Jesus, I'm going to heaven with the blah, 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 blah. I mean, that's fine. If you want to believe that stuff, that's fine. You might, if you're lucky, go to some sort of mediocre heaven where people like that congregate. But there's many other choices. You could, many of them much worse than that, I'm sorry to say. But there's many places you can wind up after you die. The important thing is to know, first of all, how to experience your death as a simple, easy, and uncomplicated and relatively pain-free process. Learn to make the transition. Why not? As you were saying, Nizam, most of us, I would think, are going to die at some point. Why not learn how to do it? We study everything else, right? Learning how to die it's actually a simple process. And it's all based on science, by the way. I'm not interested in somebody saying that the Bible says this or the Quran says that or the Vedas say this. No, I've done the research. I know what happens when you die. In addition, I've also been lifted out of my body and shown what happens when you die in my present life. Some of you may know that our work is similar to that of the ancient mystery schools, what we call the death mysteries, the Orpheus and mysteries, all the great mystery schools of the ancient world. We do that. And why not? Because as long as death is a mystery, we're all going to be frightened of it. We won't know what to do with it. What you will learn is not only that, but you'll learn how to be prepared for the possible choices that await you on the other side and what possible pitfalls might await you as well. When you learn how to make an easy transition out of the body, and by the way, you'll have to practice and drill on your own with this. It's not like I can have you done in 4 hours. But you will learn when you get to the moment after death, the parinirvana experience, the after-death experience of that infinite light, the Ein Sof, that is your higher self. Once you experience that higher self, you need to be prepared not to blow it off. I'll catch you later, God. I need to get down to the bar and have a drink. Got to be real careful about that. when you get to the experience of God, that moment of after death decision, as we call it, you better be as awake as possible. You better be prepared as possible. And I will teach you what the choices are that await you on the other side, and help you make the best possible decision, as well as help you understand, what happens to people, criminals, Christians, other crazies. I mean, silly, of course. I am a Christian. And so what I'm saying is that everybody has to know what's really going to happen, not just read some gospel writer who never even went there. You know what I mean? One man I know that's been there and come back is my friend Jesus. And he talks about what's available up there. But don't trust the Bible. Listen to what Jesus has to say, you'll do okay. It had nothing to do with his blood or his sacrifice, nothing to do with that. He died to be resurrected so he could tell you what's on the other side and you believe it. That's all. And so, but I'm not in that, therefore, a fundamentalist in that way. I'm actually, if you were to look at my religious beliefs, I don't have any. Someone asked the other day, well, you believe in this? Do you believe in that? Well, I believe in what's real. I believe in science. Science works whether you believe it or not. Somebody said to me, well, David, does your alchemical process work? Really? And my answer is this. Well, let me think. If I were to give you my car and you were to go out there and start up my car and drive, I could ask you, first of all, do you believe in the internal combustion engine? Do you believe? Your faith must be strong in the internal combustion engine. You've got to believe that gasoline is going to get your car moving. No, you don't have to. You just turn the key. You just get behind the wheel, learn how to drive it, and that's how it works. Not because you have faith.
Yes.
Does that make sense? And of course, that's been your experience, hasn't it? Tell us about your experience of the training so far.
Amazing experiences. David, this interview wouldn't be complete if we don't talk about past life regression of alchemical hypnosis. So please tell me about different methods we use there.
That's a very good point. And the first point I want to make here is that past life regression is an interesting and brand new form of therapy in the field of hypnosis, psychotherapy. And most people who are practicing really don't know what they're doing with it, as you yourself know, because you remember we talked about that in our class. Most people think that past life regression is some kind of an amusing journey to go back into a past life and see where you were and what you did and how interesting is that. And it is. Historical regression is really cool. However, that's not therapy. In fact, most people who are doing past life regression therapy go back to free you of your past life traumas. The time when you drowned, or the time when you got killed, or the time when you did this. And they want to go back and just relive the memory to free you of it, which is itself only marginally effective. But in the alchemical work, we have to do much, much more with it. We actually are trying to do real therapy here. I taught this in Paris one time at the NLP Institute's, what's it called, Synthesis in downtown Paris. And he said, after I taught this class in past lives, he said, I thought past life regression was just kind of a tour guide thing. Yeah. And they should know tour guides in Paris, right? But instead, he said, it's one of the most powerful therapies I've ever seen. When you do it alchemically, you see.
Yeah.
Because what we had done was I had shown him how we go back to a creative ability in a past life, whether you're a dancer, a writer, a singer, a leader, and bring that ability forward to the present. Whether it's leadership or it's creativity in the classic sense, even the ability, even childcare abilities or compassion and meditation and healing abilities, bring them forward from the past. That's a very different paradigm of how past lives are treated. Most of the time we treat it as, well, we'll just get rid of that past life so you can move on. If you've been on this planet for 20,000 years, surely you've accomplished a few things you'd like to remember, wouldn't you? A few things that you've figured out. A few lessons you've learned and abilities you've accumulated that you would like to be able to access and use again. Now, you can get on my Facebook page and look under my posts, and you can see my music.
Yes.
I don't know how to read music. I read about a third grade level, but when you hear the music playing, and I can only do a few segments, a few seconds of it on Facebook, I play like Rachmaninoff, and it blows my mind. I still can't get used to it. You know, when I try to sit there and read a piece, I tried to study back in junior high school, and my teacher eventually said, David, you have no talent. You have no talent in music. But it turns out what I don't have talent for is sitting there and learning how to play a song with exact notes the way it's supposed to be played. Instead, I channel spiritual musicians, several different ones, and the music is spectacular. And this is what I learned to do in a previous life where I studied with Franz Liszt. So if you hear my music, it sounds like Franz Liszt. Yeah, it is. I learned from him. In addition, I have entertained thousands of people dancing. I've never studied dance. I can show you exactly how to weave the pattern of water, sun, and storm in temple dance because I picked it up in a past life. Yeah, a past life as Michaela, the high priestess of the ancient world, who runs a mystery school, which you'll soon be graduating from, Nizam. The mystery school of alchemy from the ancient world. That comes from one of my past lives. We'll also learn how to clear karmic deeds out of past lives. That's real important. What have you done in the past that needs to be healed in the present? We'll also learn how to heal karmic relationships. You know, when you know someone, you've been knowing them for a long, long time, and then you meet them again and you know, who is this person? I know this one somehow, somewhere. Maybe it's your soulmate. Maybe it's just your karmic connection. Maybe it's someone that's been seeking revenge on you for 1,000 years. I've run into all of these. So learning what these relationship contracts are all about is extremely important, because that way we can understand, why am I meeting you? And should I trust you? Now, you see what I mean? These are all very, very important issues that we need to deal with in our actual relationship. So when someone says to me, well, David, I don't see any reason to go back to a past life. I've got plenty of trouble in my present life. My first answer is, that's probably the reason you have so much trouble in the present life, is because you haven't examined and cleared and accessed the power, the ability, the healing of your past lives. Yeah, so the idea that you're too busy to go back to a past life is kind of stupid. That's like saying, I am too busy snorting cocaine to deal with my addiction problem. You see me? No, do something about it.
Yes. Awesome. And David, why didn't you copyright or patent alchemy hypnosis?
I'm sorry, why did you what?
Why didn't you get this alchemy hypnosis patented?
Patented, did you say? Is that the word?
Patent.
Oh, I'm sorry,
patent
I don't understand.
Copyright?
Oh yeah, patented or copyright. Yes, yeah. I'm sorry, it's your accent for that one word. And you know, this is an interesting point. I actually looked it up with a patent attorney at one time many years ago to patent the idea, and he said that spiritual technologies are extremely difficult to patent, for one thing.
Okay.
And they discovered this with a number of different attempts to patent spiritual technologies. But he said courts are skeptical of offering a patent for a process when you're claiming it's an ancient source of wisdom. You see me?
Okay. Okay.
If I invented this process, then maybe you might be able to patent it. But the fact is, I'm not claiming that I personally created it. That it is, in fact, I'm saying, a distillation of ancient wisdom that I might have certainly put together, but the wisdom itself is ancient. And therefore, what I was told is that it would be not only impossible to patent it, but it also wouldn't make any sense karmically. It wouldn't make any sense in terms of my dharma. Anton Mesmer attempted to patent the human auric field. He attempted to patent what is called the animal magnetism energy that he had discovered. In patenting that, he meant that anyone who ever performed a healing on someone else's auric field had to pay him a commission because it was a patented technology. His was the first attempt, I think, among many, for people to take financial advantage of ancient spiritual knowledge. I'm real aware that that's not going to work karmically. So that's why I do not patent it. I can't even copyright the word alchemical hypnotherapy, which I only wanted to copyright to keep someone else from using. And wrongly, but in fact, it doesn't work, because if these are two commonly used words like alchemical hypnosis, they cannot be patented. And so, they cannot be copyrighted. So the answer is, I'm just giving it away. I'm giving it away, and the truth is, if you want to steal what I do with the inner child, inner family, you want to steal it and run off with it, fine. You still aren't going to hurt anybody by running off with this technology. I mean, it's not a nuclear bomb we've designed. It's something that is so enormously healing that you can steal it and run away with it. I still get some good karma from the experience. Yes. However, I do warn you that you will do much better by connecting with an approved alchemical instructor, an approved trainer, and approved training. What do you think of the trainers in my training right now? Alexa and Amy and Pat, for example.
Oh my God. Amazing, amazing. They could shift lives daily.
They shift lives all the time. They are highly trained professionals. You know what I mean? I think that Alexa, who's completing her trainer certification program with us real soon, she is an amazing human being, an amazing trainer. And so if you're going to take an alchemical program, I encourage you to go straight to our institute, frankly. Not because I've got a patent on it, yes, but because you're going to get a solid quality product. Yes. That's just what it comes down to. And we have had for many, many years a number of alchemical trainings around the world. But contacting directly our institute, alchemyinstitute.com, you can find out what, and now I'm not doing as much traveling, frankly. I'm not only getting older, but I'm also getting lazier and don't really like traveling. Sometimes up to half the year traveling. Instead, I do all my classes like this on Zoom.
On Zoom, yeah.
So that means from anywhere in the world, you can take my training, anywhere in the world. And you have an enormous opportunity with me and with my incredibly beautiful alchemical staff to make a life-transforming experience happen for you, just as it's happened for Nizam.
Thank you very much. And thank you. Love your energy, love your technology, and transforming lives. This is truly a gift to the mankind. True gift.
Amen. All right. Thank you, Nizam. Be sure to get this off to your readers and also back to our institute, where we're putting up a special page just for you on our website. I'm sure you've seen it. Okay. So, all right. Thank you very much. Namaste. Shalom.